Hi again, it's the No Vacancy News robot. Did you know, the German word Fernweh means far sickness, or an intense urge to travel?
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the No Vacancy podcast with me, your friendly neighborhood Glenn. Remember, your trip is short, so blaze on. I'm so excited to have each and every one of you here with me this week. And boy, has it been an exciting week here in No Vacancy land. For the first time, we got to do LinkedIn Live, and we also did it not just the first time, but the second time, too. We had such a great time doing it the first go-around. We tried it all again. I'm still, of course, out there, experimenting with how all of this is going to work, but I think it's pretty exciting, and what I liked most about it is that I got great participation from people like you. So it really is taking this show up to another level. We're actually able to respond in near real time. There's like a 20, 25-second lag between recording it, between saying the words and it showing up on LinkedIn. And it was so great being able to respond in the moment to what things that you all want to learn. And I got to tell you, that is really something that excites me a lot. Now, if you missed it, you can check out the rebroadcast of the shows, both on NoVacancyNews.com and, of course, on my Glenn Hausman page on LinkedIn. Our first shows with, of course, Anthony Melchiori. You might know him as my co-host from Checking In with Anthony and Glenn. And, some show on the Travel Channel called Hotel Impossible. You know him from there. What a great guy he is, and we had such fun talking about all the issues that matter most to you. And then I got to tell you, on Thursday of this past week, I spoke with Rick Garlick of Maggot. He's a really cool dude. They're very focused on research and understanding what's happening in the hotel business. So what we did there is we talked all about the trends that you really need to know to be prepared for 2020 and beyond. All of those things that matter most to you. This week, I'm very excited. I will be in Las Vegas hosting the general session for RLH Corp. You know them as Red Lion Hotel Corporation as well. That'll be on Tuesday morning from 9 to 11 on the main stage. And then Monday afternoon and Tuesday after the general session, I'll be on stage at the brand showcase at various times, interviewing some of the most influential people that are going to be at that event live and in person. And I'm also, I think, at a session with Anthony on stage. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I'm pretty confident I got one of those going on. And I think what we're going to try to do is see if I can do a LinkedIn Live from the Red Lion Show. Now, wish me luck. I'm not really a tech guy. I could barely even, put a 1 and a 0 together, let alone make all of this stuff happen. So we'll see what happens with that one. I'm not making any promises, but tune in. Stay tuned. If you haven't followed me on LinkedIn, make sure you follow me, Glenn Hausman. That's GLENNHAUSSMAN. And I will connect with you, or you follow me. I don't know how any of that stuff works. I'm just a Luddite at heart. But one thing I do know is that you guys need to reshape your expectations what an FF&E distributor partner for hospitality should be. That's why Almo Hospitality should be your go-to partner to simplify FF&E deployments. I've been talking about these guys a lot. You know them. They're at hospitality.almoproav.com. They take a lot of the headaches out of your business so you can focus on what you do best, running your hotels, running your empire in the making. Almo Hospitality has been around for a really long time, and they're part of Almo Corporation, the nation's largest independent distributor of professional AV, consumer electronics, major appliances, outdoor furniture, and housewares. I encourage you to check them out on their Facebook page and their LinkedIn page, as well as that address that I told you. So check out Almo Hospitality, as they're really on focus with the industry-leading brands, the latest hospitality trends, and distinctive new-to-market brands. In fact, I just found out that one of their folks, Nonstop, which does these wireless charging stations, is now featured at the TWA Hotel at JFK Airport. How cool is that? Bringing a little future technology with a little retro vibe all in one. Those are the types of products and services that you can get when you partner with Almo Hospitality. All right. If you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, be sure to text HOTEL to 66866. Get our Sunday night newsletter. You know how to do that. You just pick out that little phone, type in the word hotel in the subject line and 66866 in the address line, and boom! You will be subscribed to the hotel, to our No Vacancy News podcast and newsletter, all that kind of good stuff. So today's show, We're going to be focusing a little bit on Hilton today. First, we're going to focus on Krystal Eng, who's the director of operations at the Hilton New York. That's a mega massive hotel property just south of Central Park in New York City. And we're going to learn all about how that property works. And then we're going to learn a little bit more about what's going on at the Embassy Suites brand with their global head, Alan Roberts, who's a great guy. And stay tuned, because next week sometime, we're going to get a great video of Alan and I in a omelet making competition, only viewable online and in our newsletter, so be sure to tune in for that one. We're going to see if myself or Alan is going to be the big winner. Who makes the better omelet? Place your bets right now. I've got a hunch I know who wins. Yeah, maybe because I was there. But place your bets. Let's see who's going to be a winner. And I think all of us are going to be a winner after hearing this next interview with Krystal Eng. And then stick around again, because on the other side of that commercial break, we got Alan Roberts of Embassy Suites. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for doing everything and supporting us. I really appreciate all that you guys do for me out here, creating this company as we approach our 4th anniversary. It's been a lifelong dream of mine. To be able to see it play out is so exciting for me, and really meaningful that all of you folks out there when I'm on the road come up and tell me that you're recognizing what I'm doing, that you're learning from what I'm doing, that you're excited by what I'm doing. That makes me a super, super happy boy. All right, I'm going to go get packed up for my big trip to Las Vegas, Nevada, and hope that I survive this week at the Red Line Hotel Corporation. I can't wait to be there, and I can't wait for you guys to hear these interviews coming up. So thanks a lot very much, and remember, you've got one life, peeps. Blaze on. See you next time. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the No Vacancy Podcast with me, your host, Glenn Hausman. Okay, I have been a lifelong New Yorker, but I lived on Long Island, and a lot of times I would come into the city when I was a little bit younger. I'd need a little break. I'd need a little respite, and honestly, I need a great place to go to the restroom every once in a while from exploring New York City, and that's kind of how I found myself at the New York Hilton Midtown. I spent a lot of time over there, a lot of time hanging out there, so I said, what better way would be have for today than get the Director of Hotel Operations at the New York Hilton Midtown, Krystal Eng, on the line. How are you, Krystal?
Very good. Thank you, Glenn.
I got to tell you, I've always been a fan of that particular property, and I got to admit it, one day, many years ago, I actually applied for a PR position there, and I was rejected, which I guess turned out well because I like doing this a whole lot more.
That's funny.
Thanks, I appreciate it. So, Director of Operations at the New York Hilton Midtown. I want to get into the nitty-gritty, but the first thing I got to ask you is, what is it like running the hotel operations for a property that has not 400 rooms, not 1,000 rooms, not 1,500 rooms, but 1,878 rooms with 150,000 square feet of meeting place? Absolutely gargantuan property.
Yes. Well, you know what? Every day is different, and I think every guest interaction is different, every group arrival, and I think that's what really makes it very unique. It's, we can be checking in a family for the first time to New York City, or we can be welcoming 3,000 people to a black tie affair dinner, or even the President of the United States of America. So really, my role helps kind of define each interaction and everything that we do here and all that we have to put into running the hotel day in, day out, and it never ceases to amaze me. I would say that we are a very well-oiled machine, turning in 1,000 arrivals day in, day out, and banquet functions of 1,000 people day in, day out, but that comes with a whole army to make that happen.
Right.
So that's really what it's like.
I'd be curious as to what kind of mix of business do you have over there? Because you're just south of Central Park. Tells me a lot of leisure, but 150,000 square feet of meeting space, also a whole lot of business. How's that break down? How do you position the property to appeal towards such different groups, all coming here to live life and enjoy the Big Apple?
You know what? That's a great question. Being the biggest hotel in New York City and the second largest amount of meeting space after the Javits Center, everybody assumes all we do is big conventions. Every day we have a big convention. That is entirely a myth because we actually only have, a certain amount of a couple of months of big conventions every month, just because that's really not all of our business. A lot of our business is that transient market.
Right.
We have airline crews that stay with us, and to your point, we're on that cusp of that Times Square area.
Yep.
So we get the luxury of getting the guests who don't want to be in that Times Square area, and maybe particularly business travel guests, and also people who've come to New York, who've experienced Times Square and says, you know what? That's not for me. I don't want to be there, but I want to be there close enough to experience some of that vibe.
Right.
So it's a real mix of business here, which I think is interesting because everybody thinks it's fully group driven.
And I will say you guys are in an amazing location, just as you mentioned, north of Times Square, south of Central Park. I find Times Square to be extremely stressful, but that's because I'm a New York guy, so I can't stand walking through Times Square. I also had the fortune/misfortune of working in the Empire State Building very early in my career. So like Times Square, it was an exercise of us people, New York guys, wanting to get somewhere quickly and then bumping into people looking up in amazement the entire time, right?
That's so true. And being from New York myself, I give myself a quota. I say I can only go to Times Square twice a year. That's all I can handle because it's not for the locals. It's just
right,
really
for
not.
sure. I go every June for the NYU Hotel Investment Conference, which is at a hotel in the Times Square area. And I keep saying to myself, why aren't they coming up towards you folks? They should really be holding that event in your building because it's so much better located. And when I lived in Brooklyn, having that F train right there, a block south, made my life a whole lot easier every time I was by your place.
And I think that's what's great about our property. If you read on TripAdvisor, that's one of our biggest attributes is location. And I don't think people really recognize it until they're here and they say, wow, what an amazing location. Steps away from Central Park, Rockefeller, Times Square, Fifth Avenue shopping, Bloomingdale's. This is really kind of the central hub for a lot of first-timers to New York. Maybe if you've come on your fifth or sixth time, you might want to explore different neighborhoods, downtown Brooklyn. But this is really a premier location, just steps away from at least 10 major attractions.
Yeah, it surely is. And do you happen to know when the hotel originally opened?
1963.
1963. All right. That makes a whole lot of sense because it definitely has that architecture that kind of evokes World's Fair out in Queens, right? It's that same
Exactly.
it's that same mid-century modern futuristic kind of feel all about it, right? And it's
Exactly.
amazing that such a massive property takes up a whole chunk of that one avenue. It's absolutely unbelievable to see this property and to say, oh my gosh, it's in one of the most expensive real estate markets in the entire planet. But I'm curious as to what are some of the what I was going to say challenges, but it's not really a challenge because that has a negative connotation to it. What is your day like as director of hotel operations for such a massively big property?
I think it's really customizing the day for what's going on. You know, it's not cookie cutter. You can't think. Even though we check in 7 to 1,000 guests a day, we have to really focus on customizing that experience for every guest. And you know, these days everybody has social media at their fingertips, reviews at their fingertips. Everybody wants a customizable experience. Everybody wants an Instagrammable experience. So it's how do we make those 1,000 guests and 1,000 arrivals feel something different, each and every one of them coming in through this building day in, day out. You know, we don't want to treat this building like a factory and just, you know, we're just getting people in and getting people out. It's really, how do we make it unique for everybody? And I think that's really the crux of, you know, the leadership and what we want to strategize when we talk together as a leadership team on how we can make those experiences and adjust them to the ever-changing market and consumers that come through this building, really.
Right. So what do you feel the average transient customer is looking for when they're checking into a hotel for that quintessential coming to New York experience?
I think, you know, especially with the increased supply in Manhattan and how everything's become, you know, increasingly competitive, I think it's really how we can make that experience different and stand out than the rest. And, you know, for some of the things in our PR marketing world, we came up with something called the City That Never Sleeps package. It's just a neat little kind of kitschy package where you can check in at midnight and check out at 3 p.m. And that's kind of for that late night city that never sleeps. So you want to enjoy the city guest. And we have to think about different packages like that. We're also working with adventures to try to bring opportunities outside of New York City, apple picking, winery tours, even skiing. So it's kind of, you know, adjusting in that way.
Sorry to interrupt, Krystal, but I was just thinking about skiing. You don't have to go all the way up to New England anymore. Just go over to the Meadowlands. I don't think they call it that anymore. The new American Dream Mall, that big giant ski slope is finally open. And for the listeners out there, this is a project that's been in the works for like 20 years. That ski slope's been sitting there unused for 10 years. Picture that ski slope you guys have seen in Dubai. It's like literally the same kind of plan. So I like the idea of taking people skiing just over the river, but folks really want to have that New York experience. They want to be convenient and convenience. And the interesting thing that you said to me is really about empowering guests to stay that they want to stay. And it's no surprise that you were the first hotel for Hilton to try out the real focus on convenience, the convenience mart, and getting rid of room service and stuff like that. From an operational point of view, I'm going to take a wild guess here. You'll tell me if I'm right or wrong, but overall, your food sales have probably gone up, and you've eliminated having to spend a lot of money for no reason, for having people stand around for room service.
Yes, I would agree. You know, when we were really thinking about that, and it was a hard decision, you know, business decision for us and very strategic, we realized that we have to listen to what the guests want.
Right.
The guests they didn't want a $30 hamburger, you know, delivered to a tray in their room. They wanted the convenience of something like Seamless. So we really have adjusted our property to cater to what our guests are saying and as they're changing. So even something like the digital key and how Hilton has really been extremely innovative in that straight-to-room digital key with your e-check-in right through the app, and also now digital checkout.
Right.
So it's about innovation too, and how we can kind of make the experience more seamless for the guests. So I think something like doing the in-room delivery and making it just a convenient way to get some food when you're hungry, with nearly, I think the count is up to close to 28,000 restaurants in New York City.
Right.
Everybody wants to try the new food craze. They don't want to sit in their hotel and eat a expensive burger. They want to try out the burger joint that's
right.
a couple blocks away, or something fun and trendy.
Absolutely. And it always surprises me when people are not out in New York City eating that great food. And not to go back to Times Square, but it makes me sad, and I get that single tear rolling down my face every single time I see a line outside Olive Garden. I'm like, God, there's so many great Italian restaurants here in the city. What are you doing?
That line at Applebee's, we had a customer
right. Same kind of thing. Drives me crazy. Not that there's anything wrong with those restaurants. They are absolutely great if you're in your hometown. But I'm saying if you're spending all that money coming to New York, eat New York food. And it sounds like the good folks over at the Hilton can give you some great recommendations for it. But Krystal, I got to ask you, one thing that I've noticed in my decades of experience going to your property is it seems like it's always under some sort of renovation to make it more trend forward. I remember when you used to have all this retail in the front that you got. I think you got rid of it for a while, and then maybe it came back. I don't know, but it's always like one thing after another, changing it, trying to make that check-in experience a little bit smoother with changing the whole way that the lobby has worked a number of times. The bars have changed. The meeting rooms have changed. How often are you renovating it? What makes you decide that it's the right time to do that in this type of situation?
I think it's all about keeping the building just competitive and making sure we make those adjustments as needed based on what we see, what we hear. And I think it started, some of the big major changes that we did started with putting in our urban kitchen market.
Right.
Farm-to-table market with
5 to 7 years ago? Was that already?
Yes, just about. Mm-hmm. And we were the first. We were the first to launch Urban Kitchen, and then the brand rolled it out to many different Hiltons across the Americas, and it's been a great concept for a lot of places. And I think that farm to table, get something fresh and easy, and chef is from Brooklyn. He always changes up that menu. It's kind of staying competitive with the local eateries around here, but just in terms of the renovations, it's really what is going to maximize that guest experience. We did do the retail plan, which kind of went right along after the urban kitchen market. And what we did was we built 4 retail spots. Right. So it was really nice to see. We have a Blue Mercury in there. We just opened recently Spiff, which is kind of a grooming service, manicures, pedicures, haircuts, shoe shines, like that, which is really neat. And just, enhancing even something, changing simple. We changed the carpet to marble, to your point. Just adjusting small things along the way, I think it's really needed. Sometimes you go into a hotel and you're like, wow, you look pretty dated. And considering we were, we were constructed in 1963, there could be a lot of opportunity for change. And I think that's really important with our ownership and the brand, that they really recognize where we can improve our areas. We just adjusted some lobby lighting and music and things that guests might not even see or notice, but it's important, that to feel the activations in the lobby and in the meeting space. It's really important. And for me, I've been here for 14 years, so sometimes I forget until I have some old colleague or guest come by and they're like, wow, you've made a lot of changes. And I'm like, oh, have we? I'm always part of the process. I sometimes forget.
Yeah. I want to go back to your comment where you say that the guest doesn't necessarily notice the changes. Maybe not on a conscious level, but I think all of the little bits and attention to detail form a subconscious understanding between the hotel and guest as to what that experience is. And that's one of the reasons why I preach so much, either speeches on the stage or here on the podcast, about getting those little details right. Because, man, everyone is so good at what they do. And you know how much competition you've got in New York City. So in order to be better, you've got to pay attention to those little itty-bitty, teeny-tiny things, which I think in aggregate winds up influencing a lot about how people perceive the property.
Absolutely. And I think that's really important. And it's, to your point, they come back and they're like, wow, I wasn't even sure I was in the right building because so many different things have changed. And, that's a positive for us because they know and they can tell that we've been consistently making improvements everywhere.
Yeah. One of the things I love is when you go out the west side of the building and you could kind of take off like half of an avenue, and when it's cold out, it's really nice to sneak through the building that way. That's one of the ways I always know what's going on with your property over there. But I'm curious. You have held a number of jobs here at this hotel because you just mentioned you were there 14 years, including front office operations, assistant director of the front office, senior guest relations manager. It goes on and on and on. Tell me what this experience has been like for you and how you've managed to continue propelling your career forward during your stay at the Hilton.
I think for me, it's, one of my biggest takeaways being at this property, my legacy, or if I were to leave tomorrow, is just really, the leader that I've become and grown within all these years here. I think, I think about it, and I think if, I after college, I got recruited into the manager and development program for the Plaza Hotel at Fairmont, that Fairmont manages. And after they were closing down for a 3-year renovation, I found myself at the New York Hilton Midtown. And kind of the rest is history. And when I think about all the years I've spent here, and if I was at any other hotel, could it have groomed me into the leader I've become now? And I don't know the answer to that because I just know that the experience that I've gotten here and what I've learned is just priceless. And I think that's, really kind of one of my biggest takeaways when I think about my experience here and what this hotel has, developed me into.
Yeah.
As a person.
I do a podcast series called Checking In with Anthony and Glenn with Hotel Impossible's Anthony Melchiori, who used to be a manager over at the Plaza. Did you happen to work with him back then?
No, I didn't, but I remember that I watched the show every so often.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I always liked the Plaza back in its classic way, and I was surprised. I think it was Elad that came in and they shrank it up, sold a lot of condos, but created that great food court in the basement, which I really like. Which I think was the first big food hall in the city, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was one of the bigger, and especially in the hotel scene.
Yeah,
one of the first. And
if you guys want to check out, I actually did an interview with Todd English, the chef who was behind that. I think it's about a year and a half ago or so. So guys, just check the catalog on that one. But Krystal, back to you and what you're up to. What is your goals here? Do you just want to stay at this hotel? Are you looking to run this property one day? Do you want to kick Chris Nassetta out of the top spot at Hilton? What's your goals there, and how do you want to get there?
Absolutely. I think when I was recently promoted into the director of hotel operations this past June, and it's funny, a lot of my colleagues were like, next step GM, next step CEO. But I think for me, it's really just how much I can learn and develop in the roles that I have been in. And sometimes, I'm humbled in the sense that I don't necessarily, give myself enough credit and say, oh, I'm going to be GM or I'm going to do this or do that. I think with each experience I have the opportunity to get, I really submerge myself in it, learn as much as I can. And, luckily I've had the pleasure of being recognized and knowing, this would be the next great step for you. So I think for me, it's kind of seeing where that goes and whether, that's at property level or in a different area. I'm open just to learn as much as I can to move along the paths that bring me to the next step.
Right. Yeah, that's great. I love that you're open. But one of the things that I find is there seems to be a lot of pressure for people to keep moving up, up, up. But it totally belies the fact that some people might achieve a particular position that they absolutely love and want to have a specific work-life balance or whatever it is and get there. So I think one of the things that we do is put too much pressure on folks to always be propelling forward, like you've got to get to some sort of position, title thing, even if it doesn't make sense, right? So, how do you...
I think sometimes people, that kind of hinders their growth. I think in their mind, they're thinking, I have to be a GM by this time. I have to be a hotel manager. And they're so fixated on just title chasing that they forget about what's in front of them and all the opportunity that's in front of them.
That's really interesting. Not to turn this into a therapy session, but I feel I've always been perpetually 2 or 3 years behind where I feel I should be at all times in my life since graduating college. I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Maybe it's pushing me. Maybe it's hampering me. I don't really know. Do you have any of that situation? Or conversely, another big issue that I deal with is I suffer from imposter syndrome. I'm like, they're going to figure out I don't know what the hell I'm doing any minute now.
I think for me, no. I think it's just, I think it's living in the now.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's really living in the now and just strategizing for the future.
Right. Awesome. So you have gotten a lot of positions here. So what do you think it is about the way you've approached your career that has allowed you to move forward with a variety of opportunities over the last 14 years?
I think for me, it's kind of always being open and available to all things that come my way and not just saying, oh, I have to stay in my lane. I'm only front office. I think by me really kind of looking at every opportunity and reaching out in every different way and all the different operations, that really is what brought me to, for the hotel to promote me to the director of operations, which wasn't typically a position in this hotel. It was almost, positioned for myself to be in it, knowing that these are my strengths. And I think, one can say, you're in the front office, you should only worry about front office things. Absolutely not. Within the front office, I had half an arm in marketing. I had another half an arm in housekeeping and engineering. And it's just how I operated, to never kind of stop learning or limit your learning, to always look for new and fresh things that you can learn from. This hotel's massive.
Right.
It's huge, and 1,400 employees. There's so much to learn every day.
Yeah, so much to learn every day. So what's the last thing that you learned that you were surprised and went, oh, I learned something?
Oh, that's every day. A lot of times with me, that epiphany comes with procedural things that happen in the hotel. We are, like I said, a very well-oiled machine, but every so often there's a pocket that something happens and you're like, why did that happen? Maybe there was no process in for it, and it really makes myself and the hotel reflect on, okay, sometimes I feel like the Martian. We run into a roadblock or something that could potentially be a roadblock, and you have to kind of problem solve your way out of it until you land back on Earth. So that's kind of how I think sometimes we're the Martian. We always have to problem solve if we find that there's something that could potentially happen or that did happen that we have to kind of fix.
Right.
So,
all right, so that's it. That's interesting. So now you talked about being a well-oiled machine. So let me put into that same kind of phraseology. How do you know that the oil is the right type of oil to maximize that machine's efficiency? Because I find in life a lot of times when things are going well, we take it for granted and we forget to step back with that critical eye and reevaluate whether or not it is indeed the right procedure and processes.
And I think you bring a good point that kind of brings you to what we discussed about earlier.
Right.
I think our, the leadership team and the operations, we're now looking on how to elevate that oil, if you will.
Right.
The normal oil that we're using is getting a little washed up, and we want to stay competitive and elevate that. So really, that's the strategy plans that we're looking at, is how can we adjust that? It's not, the same thing we were doing 50 years ago.
Right.
It's certainly not going to, be the same thing that we need to do now. Back then, there wasn't even any computers. Now we have digital keys. So it's really kind of dissecting each area and seeing kind of the pain points for each of the area and how we can enhance those areas. And, if we get those few things right, then we move on to the next phase.
Right. And I think that's really so essential because I think all of us have a tendency, and I really mean all of us, is to stick with comfort. And if something is working, not change it. And sometimes that, I think, robs you of the opportunity to be better prepared for the future if you're not constantly evaluating. So it's good to know that you're really focusing on making sure that you're always doing the most efficient and effective and the right thing at all times. And that must be difficult when you're thinking about technologies, because when is the right time to pull the trigger on a particular type of technology? Although I'm wondering if it's a little different for you guys because you're such a prominent Hilton Hotel, I think you're a test bed for a lot of stuff as well. So you're right. So how does all of that decision making work for you when you're like, oh, it's time to do it? And I've got to ask then, how much does Hilton corporate influence it? Because when you're talking about the quick serve kitchen, I'm totally blank on the name. Kitchen, what was that again? Urban Kitchen. If you're thinking about like Urban Kitchen, you were the first one to do it, so you've got to probably partner with the parent company in some of those
Absolutely.
instances, right?
We have a very close connection with our corporate office, and I think a lot of the things, they do choose us here as a pilot hotel. I think they realize that if we can make it work at the New York Hilton Midtown, then it surely would work in many other locations.
Totally.
So that's a good thing about here, where they always ask us, and we're like, sign us up. Yes, we want in. We want to be the first. Some of the things they might pilot at smaller properties, just to see how it would work in that test environment. But really, when they're ready to launch it and roll it out to a big property, they'll roll it out here. A lot of the things they test in McLean based on our corporate office down there. Once they're ready to flush it out, they say, New York Hilton Midtown, they're getting this.
That's got to be that's got to be an interesting opportunity / challenge to be doing something first at such a large scale, because down in McLean, they don't have 1,870 something guest rooms with people coming in and out, right? So you're really going to put anything through all machinations, because you have all different types of people with all different needs.
Absolutely, and I think that's just a testament to the leadership in this building. We thrive on new challenges like that, and we really get excited for it. So just like Digital Key, we're like, yes, bring it on. Let's go. Now we're going to have our game plan. Let's strategize. Let's make this work. And one director of HR mentioned to me the only constant in this hotel is change, and I really do feel that.
Yeah, I love it. Any advice that you would have for folks up and coming in their careers on, how to best approach their journey?
Yes, I think it would always, it would be kind of back to what I was saying with my professional development, to always challenge yourself and push yourself to learn more, and not just what's in your lane. To always strive to be a better and stronger leader, and not wait to be told what to do, but to be the actual doer. I think, a lot of times people are like, oh, director of operations, maybe you sit back and relax in your chair and tell people what to do. I said, absolutely not. I'm peeling tape off the floors. Right. I'm looking at this and that. I'm running around. It's really being that eyes and ears everywhere. And, you have to roll up your sleeves. Right. Otherwise it's not about sitting back and relaxing.
So how many steps a day do you think you're walking on average? What's your phone telling you?
Funny. We have a managed by walking around program, and we each got Fitbits years ago. Yep. Some of the executive committee, I still have mine. And since I've been in my new role, I definitely meet and exceed my 10,000 steps a day. So I definitely get my steps in, and that's great, because I've never envisioned myself as sit behind a desk and me against a computer all day long. I knew I needed to be in a world where I'm hands-on and operational, and this is just kind of like the perfect niche for me, and just so much areas to tackle and to assist in this hotel.
Awesome. Krystal, this has been so much fun speaking with you today. You've done a great job, so you've earned a shameless plug. Promote yourself, promote the property, promote both. I don't know, promote your favorite TV show, or maybe skiing in Jersey, whatever it is.
I think my shameless plug is, it sounds a little bit obvious, but I think for, Hilton Hotels in general, that, being voted the number one, best place to work in the U.S., and number 2 best place to work in the world, and number 1 for best place to work for women. I mean, it's just really beautiful and amazing to be part of such a movement within the company and within an organization to really make strides towards diversity and community. And there's so many different programs that Hilton has and that provides for us to really bring that home. Something even like our Go Hilton program is amazing. That's our team member travel. That's the first thing everybody asks me. You work for a hotel? What is the benefits of staying at different hotels? And really, that's amazing. I just actually came back from the Hilton Hawaiian Village Sunday. So great to stay at a nice employee rate there. Even Milk Stork program, which is, a program for nursing moms to be able to bring their milk back and forth from work to home.
Wow.
So just a lot of different innovative things that Hilton constantly puts into place for the team members. And also with the Hilton Honors program, I was mentioning Digital Key. I'm a huge fan, obviously, working for Hilton and traveling with Hilton as a Hilton Honors member. The Hilton Honors program is amazing, in my opinion, best in class. You can do things from booking easily to now there's Lyft points that you get points for, Hilton Honors points for that. Also, you can use your Amazon, which is amazing. You could check into your room, use your key, check out. So I think, Hilton in general is definitely moving in the right direction, and it's just beautiful to be part of, such a great company and really, seeing what comes next.
Great. I love it. That was an absolutely incredible plug. I applaud you for that, Krystal Eng. Krystal, thank you so much for being here. And I want to thank everybody for listening. Man, that was a really fun conversation that I had with Krystal Eng there. And a really great hotel in New York City. If you're in there, go check it out because they are doing such innovative things. All right, we'll be right back after this message. But if you haven't subscribed yet to this podcast, go on Apple Podcasts, go on Google Play, go wherever you get your shows and hit that subscribe button. I want to thank you guys for listening. We'll be right back after this message.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, Glenn here. So listen, a while back I told you about the Red Collection, Red Roof's soft brand that was developed after comprehensive research into what travelers today truly desire. It's offering you a great opportunity to affordably expand your portfolio in the heart of cities that you love. Well, for a limited time, that opportunity is miles beyond affordable because Red Roof is offering free royalties for 5 years. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 years to qualified franchisees completing an application by December 31st, 2019. So you better act fast. The Red Collection is a fast-growing group of upper mid-scale unique hotels, each inspired by their city's vibe and culture. And don't we all love that? What's more, every property has its own distinctive name, customized property enhancement plan, and brand standards based on what consumers want rather than arbitrary design mandates. And because all of this is backed by Red Roof, you'll gain the advantage of their owner-operated perspective, as well as a loyalty rewards program with more than 3 million members that just happens to be the richest in class and least expensive for franchisees. Plus, you'll be working with a company with franchisee satisfaction at 90%. To learn more about our 5-year royalty-free program with the Red Collection, offered to you here through No Vacancy and other places, contact Matt Hotstetler, Red Roof Senior VP of Development and Franchising, right now. Not just today, right now. Drop everything. Give him a call at 713-576-7426. That's 713-576-7426 or mhostetler at redroof.com. That's MHOSTETLER at redroof.com. And tell him Glenn sent you.
All right, and we are back more with Alan Roberts. I feel like we should do a series together.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Right?
I think we have fun when we do this.
It's so easy to talk to you.
Yeah,
all right, so let's get back to the Embassy stuff, because we were talking here to talk about Embassy Suites today, although I would really rather talk more about omelet making. But again, check out that video coming real soon online. So with all these properties that are opening, is there any that really particularly excites you that you think is really reflective of where this brand is headed to in the future?
Yeah, the cool thing is I have 3 left to open this year.
Right.
And all 3 of those represent the 4 development strategies that we have as a brand. So we have one opening up downtown in Knoxville. It's an adaptive reuse. It's going to be I do too. I mean, those are some of my favorite projects.
Me too.
I just love to see what the developers do with some of these old buildings, and they're just so cool. And this one is going to be no different to that. It's going to have a great rooftop bar in the middle of downtown Knoxville. It's going to have some retail space around it on the ground street level that's going to be lease space, and then the hotel in between. So that's going to be fantastic. It shows how we're adapting in an adaptive reuse, but it also shows our urban downtown kind of strategy.
Right, and it seems to me that strategy has changed over time, because you do have those retail components, and some you even have like the office component.
Yeah, there are some, and we leave that's some of what we leave
the
up to the
developer,
right? Yeah, if he's got space that he can do that with, and he can make that work, I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah.
As long as we have the services that you would expect. Get your omelet in the morning, get your cocktail in the evening, and that's it.
Yeah, but what do I care if there's more floors underneath or above where I'm staying, right?
And that's how we get into some of these hard to serve locations, right?
Yeah,
so
because I'm speaking specifically now towards some of the developers that are out there, because for it to pencil out, you might need to have those other components to it to make it a real multi-use type of facility.
That's right. And that's the thinking outside of the box, right? Thinking outside of the traditional build way. That's exactly how some of these get done.
Right.
So that's one. The second one we've got opening up that we're looking forward to opening up, we've got is at the gates or right on campus of Arkansas State University.
Oh, cool.
So it's in
Arkansas?
Yeah. It's escaping me the town that it's in. But yeah, it's on. I know that it's right off the campus, and that is one of the. We've had a lot of success with hotels that have opened up right off campus of a school. It doesn't have to be a big giant school. It can be a secondary tier type of school. Right?
It's true, and I'm seeing if there's any schools out there that don't have the hotels associated with them, you got to get them. As a matter of fact, I live on Long Island.
Yep.
My kids were asking me this question because they took some summer courses over at Stony Brook University, and they're like, "Why is there a Hilton Garden Inn in the middle of this university?" I'm like,
"There you go,"
because that owner is making more money.
That's exactly right. They work really well with the concept of what an Embassy Suites is. So we've opened last year. We opened one up in Notre Dame, right across. It's a beautiful location.
That's awesome.
It's right off campus. You can actually see this football stadium right from the rooftop. There's one there. We did one in Tuscaloosa. I mean, these are popping up as a location for owners to think about. So that's a great one we've got there. And the third one that is opening up is escaping me. It'll come to you.
Yeah, it'll come to you. But in the meantime, let me ask you this: what are you most excited about when it comes to Embassy?
Yeah, the nice thing. I mean, the cool thing about Embassy Suites is we're now past this bubble of all this noise that we had coming at us that was impacting our numbers because we had so much going on under construction. We had so much going on. From a guest standpoint, because whenever you do those major renovations, there's guest impact.
Yeah,
and our hotels do the best they can do to try to downplay that.
Yeah.
But it comes, and there's not much you can do.
I remember being at one in Virginia 18 months ago or something like that.
Tyson's Corner.
Yes, right.
That's right,
and the whole lobby was being
demolished
ripped.
down to the dirt of the concrete.
Right. And for me, as a hotel geek, it was really fascinating to watch the whole thing going. But I felt so sad for the operators because they really had a hustle there. Like they created this whole breakfast area out of whole cloth almost, right? And
that's exactly right.
But to see how it changed, like one day it was like nothing was there, and the next day they did a whole lot of work, and it was amazing how quickly it started to come together.
And that hotel, Glenn, I love that you have this history because you remind me of stories. That hotel was built in 1984. I think it was the second hotel built of that original Promise type prototype Embassy Suites, built and opened in 1884.
Wow.
And after it finished that renovation, that hotel bounced up to the top 50 of the brand. I mean,
it
was
me.
phenomenal.
Because that's one of those places that have great bones that just needed to be modernized for today's customer.
That's right. So, and that's the beautiful thing about this brand. That's the story. And by the way, I remembered.
Hey, congratulations.
Oklahoma City.
Ah.
Right? Oklahoma City is going on. It's a conversion of an old, we won't say the other brand, but what is a 400-room big box hotel, and the developer realized the opportunity to shrink that box a little bit, add the Embassy Suites concept, get the suites to the rooms, and they would do two things. It shrank the box so that they could sell the rooms to the level that they needed to be able to sell in that market, and it got us into a market that otherwise we wouldn't have been able to get into because you couldn't build the square footage.
Because they had to blow out walls and everything.
No, they took rooms down, and the hotel was closed.
Yes,
so the hotel was closed during this thing. So, but that's a great conversion. We don't see a lot of conversions because you have to lose keys to turn a hotel from a standard room bay to a 2-room suite. So you don't see a lot of that. But in that case, it worked.
Let me say something positive about that, though. If you have an old hotel with rooms that aren't big enough and little itty bitty teeny tiny bathrooms, you're not going to be able to fill it up. You're not going to be able to get the rate that you want, right? And I guarantee that this particular hotel is going to get a huge increase in rate and probably a lot more money flowing to the bottom line than if they'd left it the other way.
That's exactly right. And they weren't able to. The reason it was no longer the other brand was because it was no longer able to sell to the number it needed to sell and drive the occupancy that it needed to sell.
Right.
This was a strategic, smart move, and there are more of those out there. We're beginning to see some more noise around those. So the 3 hotels that are opening at the end of this year, and by the way, the one in at Arkansas State is in Jonesboro, Arkansas. See, it all comes back to North Carolina. I stopped trying to remember, and it comes back to me. But those hotels are representative of exactly where this brand is going as a strategy from a development standpoint. So it's exciting to be in this place now. It's exciting to see the numbers coming in and be able to really look at the owners and say, we told you we were going to bring the brand. The brand was going to be here, and we're there. And it's just it's a great place to be.
So how do you keep yourself up to date in terms of just knowing what the next business issues are going to be, making sure you're the best leader that's possible? How do you educate yourself and stay in the loop that way?
That is the hard part. There's a little guesswork. There's a lot of reading. There's also, I'm a relationship guy. I have an owners advisory council that I have really good, solid relationships with the owners that sit on my owners advisory council. And I ask them these types of questions that you're asking. And by the way, owners don't have to be on the owners advisory council to have that conversation with them. And that's where I get a lot of it. I hear their concerns. I hear where they're coming from. Of course, Hilton's a big organization. We have lots of resources available to us. So if there's something that I think has merit, I may ask our strategy team to dig into it a bit for me to help me educate and understand exactly, are we heading down this path? Is this a concern? Is it something we need to change or not? And then, of course, there's the voice of the guest. Mm-hmm. The guests we listen to, constantly. They're constantly getting feedback. So it's just keeping your eyes on the ball. Really.
I think all that's great, but the perfect answer would have been, Glenn, I listen to the No Vacancy podcast every single week.
And of course, that's a part of my education every week.
I'm sure. All right, so wrapping this up, is there anything that we didn't get to that you want to make sure that we address?
I didn't say it directly, but I will say it directly. The cool thing about Embassy Suites right now, the one thing that I want to make sure everybody knows, there was a point in time several years back before all this really got underway the way it has and where it's evolved to. There was a question out there about the validity of the brand. Was it really still growing? Was it beginning to kind of stagnate and be old? And I'm here to tell you, man, it is not. We've got some really cool products out there in some really great locations, and I love where we're going. We're still charging the RevPAR. The RevPAR index for this brand is still in the 121 areas, and that's a fantastic place to be. So it is still a high performer. 35 years old, 6 years young. It's a great story.
And I love that you took a look at it and even asked yourself if the brand was still valid, right? Because I think that a lot of older brands must go through that process, and if you don't, you aren't going to be valid, and you're just going to be taken away from the minds of the consumers. I've seen it happen with other brands before.
That's right.
Some have managed to make a comeback. A lot haven't.
Yeah, we didn't. Luckily, we hit the cycle of this licensing going on, this relicensing cycle that allowed us the ability to really kind of dial in with our owners and get the refresh done the correct way and really let us get repositioned. And we took full advantage of it, and our owners partnered with us, and here we are. And it's nice to be on this end of it, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I'm sure. So in regards to all that, I just thought of another thing. What are you thinking about when it comes to operating the properties and making sure that they run as efficiently as possible? Because one of the things I hear all the time is it's getting more expensive to operate hotels, and we can't push rates like we used to.
That's exactly right, and we are challenging on both ends of that.
Yeah,
right. So we are challenging. I'm challenging our brand management support teams and our revenue management teams and our Hilton sales teams. How do we help this brand? How do we help our owners to drive more rate through the mechanics of what they do? But on my end, I'm working with our marketing team to re-image and make sure that we're telling the best story about where this brand is today and how it looks today, and making sure that the pictures that we're putting out there and the videos that we're doing and the pieces the advertising that we're doing, the marketing that we're doing is showing and representing the best of what this brand is really about today to enable our owners to be able to then at the local level drive that rate. So that's part of the equation. The other side of it is we're listening and we're trying to figure out through innovations. And not Embassy, but Hilton has always been an innovator. They've been that way from 1919 to now, right? That was what Conrad hung his hat on, was being an innovator in the industry. And that hasn't changed for us. So we're going through innovative ways, trying to figure out how do we help our owners be more efficient in things like cleaning rooms, and how do we help deliver the light and warmth of hospitality through an app without, so they can better repurpose. And it's not about eliminating staff. It's about repurposing the staff to do things that are more meaningful to the guest experience instead of doing the anecdotal checking in, checking out kind of thing, or just cleaning a room. But how can we help a housekeeper do a room? How can we put things in the room? How do we use finishes in the guest room that are easier to clean, so
Right.
it doesn't take them as long. And those types of innovative things, but all of that takes testing and trial and error, and those are all going on. The innovation factory is alive and well in Hilton.
All right, now I'm not saying that this is a problem that your hotels have. I see this across the entire industry. And again, not necessarily Embassy Suites. If you guys out there could figure out how to get in the bathroom sinks, the faucets come out far enough so water doesn't splash absolutely everywhere, you're going to save a lot of time cleaning those rooms.
Not a bad recommendation. Right?
Yeah, right. I don't understand why.
I'll throw that
why
in the
this
innovation
happened.
factory.
Thank you. I
See
really
what you
appreciate
come up
that.
with.
All right, I think I'm going to end this thing on a high note.
Okay.
Although I feel like we could talk.
I think it's been a high note.
Yeah.
We've been having fun.
I know for sure. All right, Alan, how can we find you?
Find me directly. It's
Whatever.
It's alan.roberts@hilton.com.
Oh, look
and
at
I'll
you
make
giving out
sure,
your email.
I don't mind putting it out there. It's alan.roberts@hilton.com, and I'll make sure I get you in touch with the right people. I'm glad to play operator in that way. But you can also go to www.embassysuites.com, or you can go to hilton.com as well, and you can find our hotels, and you can find information on development. So there you go.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you for being here today. Wait, hold on one second. I have no idea what she's saying.
Oh, the social channel.
Oh, all right. Wait, let me.
Wait,
hold on one second.
Wait a minute. Time out. Social channel. Which ones do you want me to talk about? Follow me up. Okay, you want me to talk about my stuff. I'm just going to talk about LinkedIn then.
All
I'm
right.
on Instagram too.
Yep. All right. You ready?
Yep.
All right. So you've earned a good shameless plug here, Alan. How can we find you? How can we find the brand?
Well, the easiest way is through social media because
Yep.
I'm on LinkedIn. I try to stay quasi-active. Not as active as you are, clearly, but I try. So I'm on LinkedIn. You can Google me there. No, Google me. You can look me up on LinkedIn. You can also find me on Instagram. I'm there as well. But then, of course, if you want information on Hilton, www.hilton.com or www.embassysuites.com, and you can find information on the hotels, development, all of that information's out there.
Beautiful. I absolutely love it. So I want to thank you for being here today, Alan. I want to thank all of you guys for listening to today's show. We're going to have a lot more great coverage in future weeks of the No Vacancy podcast, all gathered here at the Lodging Conference. So stick around, and I'll be back next week. That is, unless I decide to move here to the desert in Phoenix and open myself up a whirligig store. I don't know where that came from. All right, guys. See you next week. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.